Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome on another Python tutorials beginners guide. This is where we tackle all beginner related Python projects that a beginner should be practicing so as to enhance his or her Python skills. So let's get started. First of all, before we get any further, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Give a channel the thumbs up and share the video to enable other Python beginners to get started as well. And also check out my previous video that I recently did. I have done many Python videos, so check out the previous one which I uploaded recently, how to create a URL shortener using Python. So let's get started with today's tutorial. So in today's video, we are going to create a digital clock. We are going to use the Kinter library and Python to create a digital clock. So let's get started. First of all, as I usually say, you need a code editor. For me, I've always preferred using PyCharm to write my Python codes. So go ahead and open your code editor, create a folder that will include all your projects that we'll be doing together. So I'm going to create a folder and I'm going to name the folder digital clock. And inside the folder, you'll also have to create a Python file. So I'm going to name it digital clock. Inside the folder that you have just created, you can go ahead and create a Python file. So I'm going to name the file as clock. And remember to give it a .py extension. So that's the first step. Now the second step, we'll need to import two libraries. First of all, if you have not installed Kinter, you need to install it. How do you install it? Head over to the terminal, and inside the terminal, you'll need to write pip install Kinter. Pip install Kinter and press enter. Remember, it's Kinter with a T, Tkinter. So for me, I've already installed it, so I'm going to pass that process. But for you, if you have not installed it, please go ahead and install it. Now, after the installation is done, head over to the file that we created, the .py file, and we'll need to import the Kinter file and the time module. So from Kinter, we'll import all the files. Import all the files, and also we'll need to import the time module. So import time. Now, having imported the two files, let's get started with writing our code. First of all, you need to declare a function down here. So let's declare a function. This function is the one that's going to help us to check the time of our PC. It's going to monitor and it's going to enable our digital clock to work correctly. So for that function to work, we need to declare a function and we need to give the function a name. So I'm going to name the function count time, and in the brackets I'm going to pass a variable and I'm going to call it time1, and I'm going to leave it with an empty string. Now after that, let's head over to the second line. Now at the second line, what it will do is going to capture the system time. So we won't need to type in the time every time we need to run the program. So for that, I need to give it a name. So I'm going to call it time2. And I'm going to allocate it the time module that we just imported into our, and I'm going to convert the time module into a string. So I'm going to stringify the time. So I'm going to use this inbuilt library in Python, which is going to automatically convert the time for me in this given format. So this format. This format is the one which you are going to use the hours, minutes, and seconds. Now after that, the next thing we need to do, we need to write an if statement. If time2 is not equal to time 1, I need it to, if time 2 is not equal to time 1, this, okay, what this line of code is going to do, it's going to constantly update the time by checking this specific line. So if time 2 is not equal to time 1, then time 1 is equal to time 2. This is after the update has been done. Now after that, let's head over and we are going to create a window for our time to be displayed. So this is the first step that we need for our program. Now then the next step we need to do, we need to create the interface, the GUI, the graphical user interface that's going to display our time for us. So I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to name it root is equals to, and I'm going to call the Kinter library. After calling the Kinter library, I need to give it a title. So I'm going to give it a title, root.title. You can give it any title you want. So for me, I'm going to name it as my clock. Remember to keep it in quotes. So this should be in quotes. So I've named it my clock. Now after that, the next thing I need to do, I need to pass, sorry for this, it's supposed to be. So the next thing I need to do, I need to call in the window, I need to pass in some stylings. I need to add some stylings to the window that we just created. So for that, I'm going to name it, let's say I'm going to name it, you can name it anything you want. So for me, I'm going to name it clock. And I'm going to pass in a clock is equals to label. You're going to pass the label. This is where we are going to add our styles. And the styles we are going to add, we need them to be applied to the root we just created up there. So root, the first thing I'm going to add a font. So let's add a font. Font is equals. So I'm going to give it Poppins font. I'm going to give it a font size of 50. And I'm going to make it bold. Now after that, I need to add a background color. So you can add any color you want. So for me, I'm going to add a background color. Background is equals, I'm going to give it color blue. And I'm going to add a foreground color too. So foreground color is equals, I'm going to give it color white. Now having done that, I need this window that you have just created using Kinter to be centered on our screen. So I'm going to pass in clock dot back, and I need to center it. So I'm going to pass in anchor is equals center. I need it to be at the center. Now having done that, basically we are done with the simple styling of our digital clock, since we don't need it to be having many styles in it. So now the next thing that we are going to do, we are going to pass this time function that we just created here. We need it to display in the digital clock, that the graphical user interface that we created. So in order to do that, we need to pass in these few lines that are going to enable the time to be displayed on the window that we just created. So the first one, I needed to pass here clock dot config, and in here pass in text is equals to time 2, the time that we need to be displayed on the clock. Now after that line of code, we are going to add another line that's going to constantly update the clock after a given time of seconds. So in our case, we are going to allow the clock to be updated after 200 milliseconds. So in order to do that, we are going to pass in the clock dot after. We need it to be updated after, and in here we need to pass the 200 milliseconds, and after the update of 200 milliseconds, we need it to run the function again. So in here, I'm going to pass count time. So that's all we needed to do to create our digital clock. For our code to run, the next thing we need to do, we need to call down here the function that we just created, our function count time. We need to call the function down here. And in order to trigger the Kinter library to display the GUI, we need to call in the main loop function. So now for the last time, let's give it a try and see the output of our digital clock. And remember, the source code will be available in my GitHub repository. The link will be down in the description section. So guys, this is our clock that we just created using Python and the Kinter library. As you can see, the title we passed in here, it is here, my clock, and the time variable which we passed in the form of hours, minutes, and seconds, it's here too. And the window that we passed here, the background of blue and the foreground of white, everything is intact as we wanted it. So guys, that's it for this video. Remember to subscribe, hit the like button, and share to enable other people learn Python. See you on the next one.